Welcome to Shielded Voices, the podcast where we break the stigma, build resilience, and support the men and women who serve our communities. I'm Mitch, a dedicated law enforcement professional with over 8 years of full-time experience and a combined 15 years of experience in law enforcement. My journey began as a police cadet, a reserve police officer, and now I am a full-time deputy. I am a defensive tactics instructor, an emergency vehicle operations instructor, and a former drug recognition expert. Now, I'm here to share the conversations that matter the most.
And I'm Brian, a deputy with over 15 years of service. I bring my experience as a defensive tactics instructor, emergency vehicle operations instructor, field training officer, a member of the riot team, as well as the narcotics team as a liaison. I'm also a veteran of the United States Army, and I am passionate about faith, family, and supporting our brothers and sisters in law enforcement.
Together, we're here to share stories, insights, and real talk about the challenges and triumphs of life in law enforcement. Whether it's breaking down the barriers around mental health, reflecting on our own shared experiences, or providing tools for growth and recovery, we're here to have the conversations that matter.
Our goal is simple: to support first responders, foster open communication, and remind everyone in this community that they are never alone. This is a space for growth, connection, and building stronger voices together.
Thank you for joining us. Let's dive into today's episode where we continue to break the silence. Before we get into today's episode, I want to take a moment to share an important disclaimer on behalf of our guests. The story you're about to hear is Leanne's personal experience, told from her point of view. It reflects her thoughts, feelings, and interpretations, and hers alone. Nothing shared in this interview should be taken as fact about anyone else, especially her husband. Leanne's husband did not participate in this interview, and he had no input on what was shared. This episode does not speak for him, his beliefs, his actions, or any agency or any employer he may be associated with. He is not responsible for any of the content or opinions expressed. Please respect that what you're hearing is one individual's story, not a joint statement, and not a reflection of any other person's professional or personal conduct. With that being said, let's get into this powerful and deeply personal conversation. Today on Shielded Voices, we're honored to welcome Leanne, a remarkable woman whose life story is rooted in resilience, dedication, and a commitment to family. Leanne was raised in a law enforcement family, where her father dedicated over 40 years of service. Following in those footsteps, she spent nearly a decade as a deputy on patrol, where she met her husband. They married in 2010 and welcomed their son in 2014. After experiencing a brief medical scare in 2016, Leanne made the decision to step away from patrol to focus on raising their son and launching their family farm. Now she proudly manages their alpaca boutique on the weekends, homeschools their son, and embraces life as a homeschooler in the making. And embraces life as a homesteader in the making. As a farm mom, she cares for 65 alpacas and over 50 chickens, while also being a steadfast support to her husband, who has served in law enforcement for 22 years. As a proud law enforcement wife of over 14 years, Leanne uses her voice on social media to shed light on the realities of law enforcement life, including the internal and external traumas that officers and deputies face. She is currently working on her first book, where she aims to share her experiences and continue to advocate for families within the law enforcement community. We're grateful to have her here with us today to share her story and insights. Welcome, Leanne.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm excited to get this conversation started. Absolutely.
Yes, this has been a long time coming.
Yes, it has.
One thing I want to make clear, you've listened to the podcast, you understand the platform, you know we're not here to help fix people. We're here to share our stories. This is the platform for you to share your story. We'll start from the very beginning, home life, your family being involved in law enforcement, and then starting your career, moving through your career, some, whether it's a traumatic incident or certain things you've experienced throughout your career. And then you're a big advocate for law enforcement families. So we really want to touch on that too. So with that, Brian, you want to get started?
You bet. So welcome again. For those of you that don't know, Leanne and I were actually district partners at one point. And it's just funny. Just the other day, I was talking to my wife about who, and she absolutely, she hasn't seen, she met you like one time. She's like, I totally remember her. Totally, absolutely remember, because we were car to car down in the South District, and she's like, who could forget that woman? Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. But
I do have a little bit of a big personality.
Right.
I know that.
I've never heard that about you, ever.
Just a little bit big. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
just a smidge.
Were you like born and raised in Oregon? What was your upbringing?
I was born in Astoria, actually, and my dad, that's where he started, was Astoria PD.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and then the time came for them to relocate, and he had an offer for Toledo or Hillsboro, and they chose Hillsboro. And to this day, our initial home that we moved into is still standing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really crazy to drive over there because it's near where I used to work for, like
right
in one of the districts.
Yep.
So it's really weird to drive over there. But yeah, I mean, that's how we ended up over here. So.
And your dad, like, I mean, for those that work the area, like, if they knew your maiden name, they'd be like, "Oh, that dude's a legend!" Like that, like everybody knows that dude. I mean, like you said,
his
40 years.
DPSST is 4 digits.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Wow. And he did pretty much everything, didn't he? Like all the way up through major crimes.
Yeah.
And then retired after 40 years.
So he was on SWAT for 10. He was up in major crimes for a period of time, and most of that was when I was in high school. He ended up back out on the road as a sergeant finally. And I might have just been maybe a junior in high school. So yeah, he ended up back out on the road finally as a sergeant. It took 13 times for him to become a sergeant, but
right. It happens. And was he still, and I don't remember, was he still active law enforcement when you got hired, or had he long since retired?
Okay, so he retired and went to court security. So he was in court security when I got hired.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And when did you start your career? Ooh, we got to think back on that one.
2008-ish, 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. 2007, I think I was hired. And I
remember you were just a couple, like a year and a half before me, a couple years before me.
I think it was 2007. It was right towards that end. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I had just done my last bodybuilding show, and I was starting to close like that chapter of my life.
I was going to say, a lot of people don't know that this woman was like jacked, like like bodybuilding. I guess so. Did you, like, after high school, did you go to college? Did you always know you wanted to get into law enforcement? And then what got you? No, you're like, nope. Really?
I remember I was in junior high. I remember telling my dad, I am never going to date a cop. I am never going to marry a cop, and I'm never going to be a cop. So that's that.
Yeah. How'd that work out for you?
Strike 3.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. That's funny.
Yeah, it started off with that, and I absolutely wanted nothing to do with the job. And I always remember one of the very first dates I ever had that I was ever allowed to have. I took the guy over to a friend's house, and I said, please help me get him approved by Mr. Marshall, because I need him to be passed so that he can take me to the school dance, you know?
Right.
And so we get him all like, you need to lose the earrings, you need to chill the hair down, you need to get a belt. Like, we fix him all up, right? Take him over, and my dad is reading a book by Dave Grossman.
Oh, no.
On killing.
Yes.
And that's what this guy sees. I'm like, this is going well. Great.
But what, did he take you to the dance, or was that a no-go?
He did.
Oh, okay.
However,
Yeah.
it gets good. My dad was working patrol, and I do remember a call coming in late that night. And my house, like, that was back when the cell phones were still bricks, like ginormous bricks, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so my dad had called the house, which we still had a landline. Okay, I was way back in the early 1900s. So my mom answers, and she's like, okay, I'll talk to her, and gets off the phone. And she sits me down. That gentleman had just been arrested because he had a gallon-sized bag of weed under the driver's seat, and he had crashed through the cyclone fence behind Skate World.
Oh, no.
Right. So I didn't get to go on another date with him.
You think? Oh, my gosh.
But, like, that was, like, the definition of my life. Yeah. I didn't like my dad, and my dad didn't like me. And that was really our relationship. It was not good. I would say up until about the point when I turned I was almost ready to turn 18, and he finally said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I put up these walls between us. I'm sorry it had to be like this.
And you saw, it sounds like, so you're saying growing up, like you made this decision, I don't want to be a cop, don't want to be. What specifically were you saying? Do you remember as just a kiddo that made you even say that out of the gate? Was it just the fact your dad was never there?
It was a combination of things. I mean, growing up, I was made fun of because I had a pig for a dad. That's just how it was. There was a kid across the street. I remember him vividly. I remember him punching me all the time. He's like, you're just a pig's daughter. And he'd punch me. I'm like, what in the God's green earth did I do to you? But that's how it was. And when I got old enough to date, nobody wanted to ask me out because I was a cop's daughter. Thankfully, I did have one gentleman who actually is, I believe it's a nephew of somebody who used to be a lieutenant there, who later moved to be or attempted to be a chief, I think, somewhere else. But I went on a few dates with him, so I actually did get some experience of that nature.
Some life
experience.
It
wasn't much, but the point
I'm 35 going on my first date.
Yeah, it felt like that. But what I saw the other kids doing and what I was able to do were two different worlds, and so my world was very secluded and very closed off, as far as that kind of a life went.
You know, it's interesting to hear the female perspective as a daughter, because I have a daughter and a son. They're both grown, and everything you're saying, I'll be honest, it's giving me chills. It's making me almost tear up, because some of the things that I've learned from my now adult kids is like spitting image of what you're saying. The life, my daughter growing up being a cop's daughter. Like, are you kidding me? She could do nothing. There was nothing. She was not. If it were up to, like, I always used to tease her when she was probably, I don't know, like 12 or 13, and talk about, like, oh, I like this boy. And I would tease her by saying, like, well, you know that nuns don't date, right? Like, that doesn't happen. And I would make, fun of it and make light of it. But there was also a lot of truth to that too. Like, there was boys to come. Now, to my daughter's credit, she was also very steadfast in standing behind me as her dad as far as what I did for a living, because there were boys that would be like, "Ooh, your dad's a cop." She's like, "Yeah, get over it." Like, that's my daughter. Like, my son, same story as you just told. I didn't know until just a couple months ago that he was relentlessly bullied through middle school because of what I did for a living.
Yeah.
And it's I would have always thought it would have been the opposite, not because they're afraid, because, oh my gosh, a cop, but I just assumed that it was opposite because it was such an honorable, noble job to have. And it's like, oh my gosh, your dad's a cop. That's cool. No, not the case at all.
And it's not. And I think that is the one thing that looking back, like I see so much more.
Mm.
I can understand my dad's perspective so much more of why he's like, when I got my driver's license, don't drive down this road. You are not
Yep.
allowed at this person's house. I remember one of the high school teachers, he wasn't my teacher, but he was at the high school. He was under investigation for some sex crimes at the
Mm.
time that I'm going to high school. And I had the option to go into his class, which would have been an advanced class.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have looked great on paper. And I really wanted to do it. And my dad's like, no,
Nope.
nope, you are not doing it. I cannot
Mm-mm.
talk about it, but you are not doing it. And I didn't understand
Right.
all these lines at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there were, sometimes you felt like you were living in a square box and you couldn't leave.
Yeah, and there's it's I get it as a parent, and as you know, as a parent too, and I mean, especially in your husband as well. But we, because of what we did, so weird to say did right now, but because of what we did for a living, we're constantly looking in the future, right? We see that big picture of the little things like driving. Well, if you turn the corner this way, well, here's what's going to happen if you oversteer, overbrake. All the stupid little things that we try to protect our kids from. The going to dances, going to parties, all the stuff. And the problem with that is it becomes overbearing.
Yeah.
And it becomes like, even though it's from a good place, it becomes very controlling and very overbearing. And I can't even imagine. And I've apologized to my kids. Like, I'm so sorry. It's just because I love you. Like, it's not anything else. It's just, I'm sorry that you didn't get to experience some things. But then again, I'm not sorry, because I don't want you to experience the same shit that I had to go through.
Well, and I think it was because of that pressure of what pushed me so hard. I had done a year of college from home, but at that time I was feeling cramped, tight, I don't know, closed in. I needed to spread my wings. I needed to go figure shit out myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to get out. And it was so funny. I had a plethora of schools to go to, and I chose U of O.
Right.
Like the epitome against everything I was raised by.
Right.
And so that year, I spent only a year down there, but that year, I am not kidding you when I say I did everything I could. I flunked out of 2 classes. I was on academic probation. I was drinking. I was partying, but I had to get that out of my system.
Yeah.
It was like I had been kept in this little box for so long and I couldn't do it anymore. And I had to go figure out, who the fuck am I?
Yeah. Yep. Were you an only child?
Yes.
Oh, even worse, right? I mean,
by choice too. My parents just knew having more than one, it wasn't financially feasible, and it wasn't going to be feasible for my family to have any more than that. So they stuck with one. And honestly, I'm grateful because I have a closer relationship now as a result. Like, we're best friends. We are super best friends. But up until I was probably 18, 19 years old, I'd say, man, oh, Pete alive. My dad and I,
no.
Yep.
That sounds all too familiar with me and my daughter.
It might be a difficult question, but having young ones, how do I avoid something like that? Or is that just something that's bound to happen?
Ooh, buckle up.
I think I'm going to give you the same advice I gave somebody else. First name of Frank works there as well. You have to take that step back. And it's kind of like what we talk about when we talk about scenes. Like when you're looking at a theft scene or something like that, you want to step back and take that totality of the circumstances. You want to look at everything. Step back and kind of look, okay, my daughter is now 16 years old. I don't want her going to dances. I don't want her being around the wrong people. But yet, if I don't allow her a little bit of slack, she's never going to learn her lines and figure out where her parameters are. So you kind of have to take that step back, I think, and just really look at everything and really analyze everything, not just from your wise, older perspective as a parent, but also I think looking back at the time when you were younger and trying to remember when you were dating and when that time was for you, and just going, okay, how do I give her enough slack to figure out who she is, but not too much, because we want to make sure that there's still some borders there or guardrails.
Sure. My advice, Mitch, is she's little, so right now start putting money aside because convents cost money. Just put her in a convent.
I don't want to date a cop. I don't want.
She's going to be a nun. It makes it easy. Nuns don't date. It's as easy as that. That's great advice, actually. Yeah. That's actually, and I'm being funny, but that is actually very, very good advice. I wish I would have done that more with both of my kids, actually. Right? Give them.
But, on the flip side of things, though, you guys both have unique perspectives in the sense that you have a close-knit group of friends, and I think that is beautiful because, like, when I was growing up, they were still on certain kinds of shifts, so that shift would work together every single day. Mm-hmm. It didn't differentiate. There wasn't like different bodies coming in and out. It was that shift.
Yep.
And I always remember at least once a month, we were hosting a shift party at the house. And it was fun. Like, when I got married, there was literally like 20 guys in the audience that were all my dads. Like, that's just how I looked at them.
Yeah.
And I think that you guys both have a unique perspective and a unique opportunity to be able, especially you, Mitch, with your kids at a younger age, being able to provide that. Because if your daughter can't feel comfortable to go to you, you want her to feel comfortable to go to one of your friends that you trust. Because you know that friend's going to leak that information to you. And that's important. You got to have... you got to have your relationships built. And I think that is the best. Make sure you have gatherings at your house. Make sure these people become family and that your kids know that they're family and it's okay.
Yep. I concur. We did that. We did a lot of that with, when my kids were growing up. We had that core group of people that we hung out with from work. Now, I mean, we differentiated. We still had our civilian friends that we hung out with. It wasn't just all cop all the time, but to this day, and I can say his name, my son could call Michelson on the phone right now. I know he could. They haven't talked forever, but he would. It's just because that's who we came up with. Mark Shaw, same way. Like, it's the same as that good, right? Just great dudes. Yeah. So you went, it sounds like you did your party thing, U of O.
Yeah.
When did you start the whole fitness journey? Was that about the same time?
Well, when I graduated college in...
Let me guess, criminal justice? No, I'm kidding.
I actually got a Bachelor of Arts.
Really?
Yeah. And I double majored. So it was nutrition, health, with kind of emphasis in physical education and kinesiology. So when I graduated, my initial plan was to get a part-time job, get my master's in teaching, and go to a high school and eventually maybe end up at a college teaching. That was like my initial great plan. I end up student teaching out at Liberty. And I think I was there maybe the second year that they were open, and there was still like a ton of rooms that didn't have desks and things like that. So I'm kind of seeing like the ugly side of teaching. And I'm like, this is a brand new building. What are we doing here? Okay. Right? And that was when all the no touching was really a big deal. And I remember a little girl who came to me after class and said, I need to talk to you. And she has like tears streaming down her face. And she's like, my uncle is molesting me.
Oh.
And I'm already going down this line where I'm kind of like, I'm just about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 credits shy of getting my full master's.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't feel good about this. Like, I'm not completely in love with it. And this, I was like,
Yeah, I'm done.
And I remember looking at the teacher, and he's like he's looking at me. He's like, you can't hug her. You can't hug
Right.
her.
Right.
And I'm like, done
Hugged
hugging.
her.
We're
Yes.
taking you up to the counselor's office. We're going to go report this together. We're going to sit there and wait for the cops. We're going to wait for everything.
Good.
I'm going to be there with you 100% of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I came down to my master teacher, and I said, I'm done. I'm leaving this.
Yeah.
And I was a personal trainer at that time, part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to my boss at that time and I said, open my books up. I'm done. I'm done part-timing. I can't do it no more. Full-time, open it up. And I filled up like that.
So you just did personal training. So how long were you doing personal training before you came to the dumb decision of being a cop? I mean, the best decision of your life, getting into law enforcement.
Best decision of my life. So I did personal training for just over 5 years.
Okay.
But within that 5 years, they had changed the comp plan 5 different times. So when I left, eventually, I was making the same amount as I did when I entered.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, how does this work out? I have 7 nationally recognized certifications. I have worked my tail feathers off. I've gone and competed. Like I've proved myself. I'm done.
Right.
I can't do this. And then they weren't doing health coverage anymore. And at that time, I had just gotten out of a 3-year relationship with, I'd kind of come to that realization, like, he's not going to take care of me. And the company's not going to take care of me. So I need to figure something out that is going to take care of me.
Right.
And thus enters law enforcement.
But after everything you've come through, after all the drawing the hard line of never a cop, no cop, hate cop, not hate cop, but you know what I mean? Was there like this epiphany? Like, did it have anything to do with that little girl at the school? Was there something that I hate the T word, but triggered you to like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be good at this?
That little incident at the school kind of sparked a little thought in the back of my mind, like maybe I should be on the other side of this. Maybe I should be helping a little bit more. But what really did it, and what really I think catapulted it, was the fact that, number one, I knew that I couldn't do desk work. Like, I'm not a sitting down kind of person. No. I'm a doer. I got to be out there. I got to be physically doing something.
Yeah.
And then the other point to that was I loved personal training. I loved helping people take those next steps in life. I loved helping them when they came to me with problems. And really, at the end of the day, I was an underpaid therapist.
Right.
Like, that's what I was. I took care of everybody's problems in an hour-long session. I just wasn't paid like I should have been.
Right.
And I think that is really what catapulted that decision. I remember going to my dad and I said, okay, so here's the deal. I can't stay here anymore. I'm not getting paid enough I'm barely getting paid enough to afford my apartment, which was in the crappiest place. They had like 3 shootings at the apartment that I was at in the time that I was there. I'm like, this ain't going so well.
Right.
I had been in a crash, so I was physically a little bit messed up. So I couldn't continue competing. I was rear-ended in 2005, which kept me from competing anymore that year. And it messed up. So everything from my shoulder to my head, all of that neck area was completely straight. I had no curve, none. So I had to work my patootie off to even come back and compete 2006, 2007.
Right.
But the point was that I knew at that point that physically I wasn't going to be able to keep up with the demands of personal training.
Right.
And I said, Dad, what do you think about law enforcement for me? And he's like, no.
Yeah. No.
No. It was just instantaneous.
And weird, you defied your father once again.
Shocking.
Right.
But truly, when I looked at him and I said, no, I'm really serious. Can you set me up with somebody to go on a ride along? I'd like to go on a ride along with county, and I'd like to go on a ride along with the city. And he's like, shit.
Right.
And he goes, are you sure you want to do this? And I said, yes. And he goes, are you really sure? Because it's a meat grinder of a business. And I said, Dad, if I don't start taking care of myself now, I'm never going to.
Yeah.
So let's do this and let's get it done. So I went on that ride along with the city. Wonderful lady. I have nothing but mad respect for her. But when you pass the corner of 4th and Main for like the 80th time in one night, you're literally going to gouge your eyeballs out.
Right.
I couldn't do it.
No, too small. Too small.
And then I go on a ride along with County. I was set up with a wonderful woman there, God rest her soul, and Kelly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now you're going to make me cry. Yep.
And it was instantaneous. Fall in love. I fell in love with her. I fell in love with the business. I fell in love with the space, the breathing room. I went home that night and filled out the application online.
Because was she a West Ender at that time? Oh yeah, you got all the room in the world. Yeah. Oh, look at Mitch over there nodding. That's Mitch's jam right there. I'm telling you, that West End shit. I've said it before. Y'all are nuts. Nope.
You throw a flare out. You're like, turn right at the flare.
Exactly. Yep. And then follow the reflectors. Yeah.
Turn left at the stump.
Yep.
That's
literally wow. Yeah.
Love it.
So you filled out the application. What was I mean, we got hired close. You were, I think, 2 years before me, if I remember right. But I mean, at the time, I'm guessing it was the same for you. Like there's like 5 positions, but there's like 3,000 applicants.
Oh, huge. I remember going in to do testing and there were rooms full of us testing. It wasn't one room. It was rooms.
And that was just one day.
Oh
for
my
the same
gosh.
process. Yeah.
So intimidating. So intimidating. But I do remember the oral board and 3 guys and one of them, poker face, the other total jokester, and right in the center you had kind of the balancing weight between the two of them. And I'm just like, oh God. And I remember thinking to myself, if I can make that one smile, I'm in.
You're in.
I'm in. And I did. I was blessed. I was very blessed. I was very polished. I had practiced. My dad worked with me so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking mock oral boards and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. We did the whole 9 yards. And I had gone on so many ride-alongs at that point that a sergeant actually said, I cannot have you come anymore.
Really? Because it's just too many ride-alongs. Wow.
Yep.
I was kind of the when I got. I mean, as everybody knows, like I was a reserve. Your husband actually taught me how to drive a cop car for the very. I mean, he was my very first Evo instructor, and then I later become an Evo instructor. But I remember I had done so much reserve work and working as a reserve that it was for me it was a little different. Like these oral boards were all dudes that I rode with. Like I knew them all.
Yeah. So
it was very different, but it was also very intimidating too, because I knew it's like, I'm not going to just walk in there like, I got this. I mean, they don't even do those anymore. It's all some video. Yeah. It's all, you take like a bubble test, like a pre-psych, and then you sit down in this room and there's a video camera and they go, okay. And they put like 3 or 5 questions in front of you or something like that. And they hit record and leave the room. And they just go, just answer those questions on a video. Now, I think once you get through a certain part of that process, they might have a sit down oral board. Do you know, Mitch?
I'm not sure. I've been so removed.
Like it's just, it's a whole different, there's nothing. And it's yeah, I know you're like, and the people that they don't hire are the ones that people like us are like, no, that's who I want to be my district partner. That's the people we should be hiring.
Yeah. And I remember being on an oral board and I was like, that person would be great. And the other 2 people, one of them of a much higher rank than I ever would have reached, was like, nope. I'm like, what? Why? Yeah. Great personality, ready to go out and like have a fight, like ready to go. Let's go. Has that hunger.
But that's why. And that's what's changed is like when you and I came up, It was all about, you better talk about what kind of a warrior you are. I will shoot people 500 times if I have to, right? It's all of
Yeah.
that stuff. Now,
Yeah.
I understand there has to be a balance. We're not out there looking for violence. But now if you bring any
We
of that
aren't.
up, right? Oh, I mean, not supposed to be.
Oh, is that what I did wrong all those years?
Yeah. Oops. But that's, now you say stuff like that, it's a complete red flag for them. No, they
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
And when I say they, the policing culture across the country, right? It's they want exactly the pat on the back. That's not who I want as my. When I'm kicking a door, doing whatever kind of dynamic entry, I don't want the hugger behind me.
Right. You want somebody who's going to be able to work and do the job.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Have compassion. Treat people with respect and dignity and even empathy. I even taught my recruits. No, you should. They always teach us. Don't empathize, don't sympathize, bullshit. These are people with feelings, with emotions. It's okay to empathize. I'm okay with hugging somebody on duty if they need a freaking hug. They're humans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just... So you go through the oral boards hiring process. You get the call. Do you remember the day you got the call? Like, were you like, holy shit, this is happening? But
I don't remember that. But I do remember going up and meeting the sheriff at that time, who, ironically enough, I had babysat for his kids.
Oh.
Like, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years before that, something like that.
Okay.
Just, a few times. It was for a summer to help out.
Right.
But I go up there and I remember seeing him and I'm like, Sheriff?
Right?
I'm like, this is weird.
This is odd. Yeah.
But because that was the one, and I don't know who you were hired under, but that was the one who asked this really odd question. Okay, watching The Wizard of Oz.
Yep. Same sheriff.
Who would you be and why? What character would you be and why? And I remember thinking, this is the most screwed up question I've ever been asked in my life.
Because what's the right answer? Like,
I'm like, I'd be the dog. Like,
right?
The dog has to worry about sleeping, eating, and pooping. Like, come on.
Exactly. Yes. Same sheriff. I fortunately for me though, when I did my, you already got the job. Like if you're meeting the sheriff, you already got the job. Fortunately for me, at the time, the chief deputy, who later became the sheriff, the one after the sheriff that we got hired under, he was the chief deputy. So he was the one that did mine. And that was very like, hey, nice to meet you. Are you sure this is what you want to do? I'm like, well, yeah. Okay,
I'm
cool.
here, aren't I?
Yeah. Welcome aboard. There's some paperwork out there. Have a good day. That was it. Like very anticlimactic, very, this is a formality because the commander at the time was the one that actually hired you. It was a formality meeting the sheriff or chief deputy or under sheriff, I think. But
well, so I got hired, and I remember at that time, kind of the guy that I was with, the 3-year relationship, like we were on the fritz anyways. We were almost done. And I remember going to him, and I'm just like, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm going to be hired. And this is coming down the pike. And I knew, but I didn't know. And that's not going to make sense. But I had a suspicion, but I didn't have the facts. And he's like, well, that's not going to work for me because I'm a convicted felon. I'm like, oh,
snap.
So like, I have this amazing series in my life of making the worst decisions ever with guys. Okay. Like if there was a dirtbag within a 50-yard radius, we were dating.
Right. And let's be honest, your current husband, it's still debatable. It's still up for debate. Like, we're not kidding. I'm teasing. I love it.
But honestly, like that moment, as bittersweet as it was, because it was the highest of highs and kind of that low, it was one of the best days ever because it helped me go, okay, I am not going to focus on this part of my life anymore. This is my focus right now. I am going to focus on my career. I am going to get my feet solid. And now I can really focus on what's important here, which is me.
You. And for that first year, that's your entire focus is cop work. With academy, pre-academy, academy, and FTEP, and all the, holy crap, the coaches by first name, who were your coaches? Can you say?
Oh
no.
Let me back this up and say, in pre-academy, I already had a horrible feeling, and I already knew, without it being said, that the sergeant in charge of FTEP did not like me, and he didn't want me there. I already knew it without it being said.
Okay, yeah. I think I know. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I get hired, I go through pre-academy, and I get my first coach, Robert, who would have been a great coach later on.
Right. Very tough.
But right out of the chute, right out of the blocks, I didn't get, like, all of my cohorts. I was in a class of 25, including jail and patrol.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a big class.
Yeah.
And everybody else is still sitting in the passenger seat. I'm in the driver's seat day 2.
Yep.
And I'm like, I am overwhelmed. And I remember vividly being sent on a call. I want to say it was probably the first week for a mental health call. And it was our car and one other. And this woman's like combative. And he looks at me and he says, we are no longer one car. We are a 2-man car. I am going to go over here and get the information. You need to stay with him and get her in custody.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
Right.
He's somebody who operates on a very high level. So he takes call after call after call after call after call, and then goes back to the station to write.
Yep. And knows every ORS verbatim.
Yeah, amazing memory.
Yes.
Amazing memory. And I'm not trying to bash him at all. But we go back to the station and I'm like, hey, so for that report, do you have, the person's name and date of birth or DL or something? Because we are a 2-man car.
Oh, yeah.
He went in and got the information.
Yep.
I was told to help her, get her in the car. And he throws a pen at me and says, damn it. You don't even know what the hell you're doing here, and walks out.
Wow.
That's like day 3 or 4. And I remember I've got Mark over here and I've got somebody else back over here. And I'm like frozen. And their coach is over here. And I'm frozen. And I'm like, what just happened? What just happened? I got a pen thrown at me and I got yelled at, but I don't know what for. I don't even know what I did.
Right.
And that coach comes over and says to me, looks at me in the face, and he says, we all have bad days. Just, I'll go out and talk with him. I'll be right back. And I'm like, okay.
Right. And that's crazy to hear from that story about, because I know who you're talking about. Like I've never seen that side of that person.
I don't know what happened that day, and I probably never will. And that's okay. But that is the intensity.
Oh, yeah.
That he works at.
Oh, yeah.
And that's great for later on phases. But remember, I already know that the sergeant doesn't want me there.
Yeah. And you're brand new. First phase.
And I remember maybe week 3 or 4, I remember being at home and I am bawling my eyes out, thinking I made the worst decision of my life. But now I've got to put on my big girl pants, because out of pure spite, I am going to make it to prove my dad wrong, to prove that sergeant wrong, to prove that coach wrong. because out of pure spite, that is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I literally grit my teeth and put my nose down and just shut up and did the job as best of my ability as I could.
And in my time, the person you're talking about, him and one other guy who was my first phase coach, Jeremy, probably hand in hand, like the toughest FTOs at that agency is like, I mean, it's like, whoa, okay, here we go. Good, but for good reasons. Good coaches, really good coaches.
Great coaches.
Yes.
So the funny thing about that is because of the way that break fell with Academy that year, I ended up with Robert for 10 weeks.
Yep.
I'm like,
same thing happened to me.
I'm like, that's it. God's punishing me for all of my wrongdoing in my entire life. That's it.
Yes.
But then I moved to Jeremy.
Oh, you had Jeremy too?
I had Jeremy.
So you went from tough to tough. Okay. Wow.
And I remember him pulling me aside one day and he's like, you act like you're paranoid to do the job. And I'm like, I am. You don't understand. Everything I did, I got ridiculed for. I can't do anything right. So what do I do?
Yep.
And he was able to bring my stress level down.
Yep.
And he was able to get me functioning on somewhat of a compassionate level and unwind kind of what had been done to me. And then I go to Adam.
Oh, okay. Wow. You got ran through the ringer.
He wanted me gone.
Yeah.
That sergeant wanted me out of there. And I will never forget, ever, 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 making it through Adam. And the next morning, because we were working nights, Sergeant, who recently retired, we meet for coffee. And it's Adam, me, and that sergeant. And we all sit down and he buys the coffee and he says, I just want to congratulate you. And I go, why? And he goes, because you made it through the most hellacious FTEP I've ever witnessed.
Wow. What a dick.
And I'm like,
wow.
Okay. So it's confirmed. I really did have a hellacious FTEP.
Yeah.
Like I really did. And then I went to my checkout coach, Matt, who is no longer with the agency because of medical reasons.
Oh, yes. Got it. Yep. Outstanding, dude. Yes.
Yep. And then I got served every dead body call from here to Timbuktu and back.
Of course you did. Shocking. Yeah. It's crazy when so I had Jeremy for my first phase and my checkout. Very, very, very tough coach in a good way. I learned so much from that man. Still talk to him. But one of the things that he said to me that once I became an FTO, I carried on as an FTO myself. And one of the things he said to me was like, look, it's not up to you to learn how I teach. It's up to me to learn how you learn. And that stuck with me. And he did a very good job of adapting to how it is I needed to learn. He picked up very quickly that my life revolved around archery hunting for elk. So everything he said was an analogy. He's like, okay, we're going to go look for whatever, Billy Smith, who's got warrants. He's like, I want you to picture you're on a ridge, you're cow calling, trying to find the right bull elk. He put everything in these hunting analogies. And I literally would tell my friends, like, I get paid to go hunt people every day, and it's amazing. It's amazing. That's crazy.
Fantastic.
We had the same coach. It's like, oh yeah, great dude. I just talked to him a few weeks ago, actually.
I will never forget. We were heading to a dog bite call, and it's week 1 in his car. I'm still I am still in my OODA loop. I am so far out of normal. I'm not where my class is. I am not where my class is at all. And we're driving there and he's like, so the dog is gnawing on the kid's calf. Why are we driving like this? And I'm like, okay. And so I kick it into lights and siren. He's like, why are you doing this? And in the middle of the chaos, his wife calls. And I'm not kidding you. He does this. He's like, hello, honey. Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. All right. I'll call you right back. Okay. Bye-bye. Why are you doing this?
Oh, God, you are such deja vu is happening right now in my brain. Oh, that son of a bitch would be, and I say son of a bitch in a great way because I love him. He is just an outstanding man. But we would just be driving, and I had him for first phase, and same thing. I was with him for almost 10 weeks before I was able to start academy, same kind of thing. And by this point, we've got a good rapport. I'd been a reserve, so I kind of get it. But we'll be driving. He would just turn the lights on.
Yeah.
The overheads, I'm like, what are we doing? He's like, well, clearly there's a violation in front of you, recruit, if you're not seeing it. And I'm like, and you're like, oh crap, what am I looking for? And then it got to the point at the end, I'll never forget, it was my last week with them before academy. We're down in the South District, the Tigard area, Sherwood area. And light turns green and we start going. He turns the lights on and I know what it is. I saw it. It's like expired tags in front of me. I literally look over at him, dead eye, and just turn the lights off and keep driving. And I just kept driving. He goes, oh, is that how it's going to be? I go, yeah, I'm good. There's a violation. He just smiled. He's like, you fucker. Such a good dude. So
really, really good dude. Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you come off of FTEP. Did you have that? I know, because I know I did. Mitch talked about it too. Like that first day where you're in a car by yourself. It's like, okay, like this is it.
Well, that FTEP sergeant ended up being my sergeant.
Oh.
He put me on his shift.
Was this also the Evo, the Evo sergeant at the time? Is that who I'm thinking? Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm actually one of the reasons that he is not there anymore.
Oh.
One of the five reasons, because my
interview, forgot about
my interview opened up a third or fourth IA. So
got it.
It was really interesting because I walked into briefing knowing I'm going into a car by myself.
Right.
And he's giving this spiel and he turned and he's like, I know not all of us are fit to be here and doing this job. And he's looking at me and I'm like, awesome. Yeah, I'm still not good in your eyes. I never will be.
He did that shit all the time. I fortunately was in his good graces, so I got along with him great when he was my sergeant. But same, yeah, I know, right? But no, he did shit like that a lot to people. Yeah.
Was there?
I never knew why, because I hadn't even. Eric and I knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we really hadn't dated at that point. We knew each other. We were saying hi. Because I had gone on a ride-along with him when I was in the hiring process. And I went on the ride-along with him because he worked the oral board. So I wanted answers.
Oh, God.
I'm smart. I know what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm going on a ride-along with that guy because he's got answers.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew each other, and he was silently cheering me along. And when I graduated academy, he'd send me like an email to my personal email. He's like, congrats. At some point, I'll take you out for a celebratory like coffee or a celebratory drink or whatever you want.
You know what we call people like that? Groomers. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, honey, there was a lot of those going on too.
Oh, jeez.
I dated everybody I went to coffee with. Everybody. You just ask Matt how many affairs we had.
Oh yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Jesus, that place is the worst, man. You go to coffee with somebody from the opposite sex, and oh my God,
every day I was having an affair.
Oh yeah,
I was busy.
Oh, I knew. I knew you were. I absolutely knew you were a whore the whole time. So stupid. That's the one thing I hate about that place.
Yeah,
absolutely despised about that place. Like you fart sideways in the wind, and all the rumors that fly. Like, oh my gosh.
Well, Face, I bet you I was still in FTEP, and I had somebody ask me, "Are you dating this person?" And I'm like,
"Huh?
Well, who are they? Maybe I want to be dating them. I don't know." I'm like, "Are they cute? I don't know. I don't even know who you're talking about." But apparently, that rumor was all over that I'm dating this person. I don't even know them, but that's how it was, and I'm like, whatever. I'm gonna get hired just out of spite now.
Yeah. So anyway, so we go back to the briefing where
Yeah.
he basically confirms that he doesn't want you there.
Yeah.
And
I will tell you, that was the day that Corey came up to me and he said, I want you to do something for me. And I said, oh, okay. Like, are you trying to get me to take a call? Like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, no problem. I'll do whatever you need, sir.
Right.
And he's like, tonight, when you get off, I want you to stop at the store and you're going to buy a notebook. And I go, okay. And he goes, every single day, I want you to write in there the date and the time that anything like that happens from here on out, and write down all your feelings.
Good for him.
Because if nothing else happens, you have taken it from here and you've put it on paper.
Yep. And did you?
Yep.
Oh, did that come up later?
Yep.
Oh, snap. I told you this could be a good one, Mitch.
3 notebooks full.
Are you shitting me?
Nope. Not even kidding.
So
I caught him in lies. I caught him in two major lies where he drug in another deputy, actually. And that deputy confirmed that he wanted him to lie to cover up the sergeant.
Wow.
And that deputy said, I will be your truth talker. I will be there for you.
Good
and
to this
day, if I ever see him again, swear to goodness, I'll run up and hug him. That guy is 10 in my book.
Can you say a first name?
Patrick.
Well, I'm drawing a blank. We'll have to. Yeah. Okay. Write it on the notepad. Because now I'm like, why, Mitch, do you know who she's talking about? I mean, it's not the Patrick I'm thinking of. Yeah. Outstanding dude. Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Outstanding dude. Yes. Why did I not think of that? I mean, there's a couple, but, wow. So, okay. So you get through this now tumultuous briefing of trying to be excited for yourself and thinking, well, holy crap, my boss doesn't even want me here. Doesn't even think I'm fit to do the job. So how do you then, I mean, I know you, I know your grit, but what's going through your mind now? You're walking out to jump into this Crown Vic for the first time. Like, should I be here? Like, should I really be doing this? Or
I think at that point I had just calloused so hard that I finally just said, it's got to be, fuck it. That literally became my motto. Like on a daily basis, I would literally be like, I'd be in the locker room getting dressed and I'm like, all right, time to go out there. Fuck it. I'm going.
Right. Yeah.
Time to leave briefing. Fuck it. I'm getting in the car. I had been written up probably 3 times.
Jesus.
By that particular sergeant. And then another one hopped on board, which that I was like, I never understood that because they didn't even sergeant me. Like they were the shift after, so they never really experienced me. But I'll tell you, I got in their crosshairs and I wasn't going to get out.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing here is like, if you start off bad and that person decides that they don't like you, you either knuckle down and just suffer the consequences or you get out because you're not going to escape it.
Right.
You really aren't.
No, you can't. And that's unfortunate, right? That lends to a lot of the things that this podcast talks about. I mean, so really right out of the gate, you're dealing with internal traumas. Let's be honest. I mean, like right out of the gate, like you can't win for trying.
No. No.
And then.
Yes.
That's what we thought. We typed it in the chat. I don't know if you can see the chat or not, but sorry for those of you listening. We're passing notes back and forth because we don't want to name drop. Yeah, we don't want to name drop in that manner. But
Was there any animosity between the FTEP sergeant and your dad? Was there any real reason?
What's funny about that is that FTEP sergeant and my dad were on the major plane crash that happened out at Hillsborough.
Yeah.
And they worked together on it. And so I tried so hard. I tried so hard to work that angle. I'm like, hey, Sarge, my dad just wanted me to tell you hi, and he remembers you from this. I'm trying to get in good. And this is a month or two after I'm out on my own, because I'm not going to bring that up during FTEP.
Right.
Because forever and a decade, and that's the other thing about it, is I was hired and I was still my father's daughter.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't Leanne.
Right.
It took a long time for me to become Leanne.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm hired. I am my father's daughter. This person doesn't like me. And I'm given every toughest of tough coaches. And they want me gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned later, what I didn't know at the time was I was told later by somebody, one of those coaches, that he very much gave them orders. You get her out of here. You get her out of here.
I believe that. Knowing what we know now, right?
Yeah.
Of that and that era of leadership. And I'll be honest, I think on some levels that hasn't changed. I think there's still.
I agree with you.
I think there's still some people in leadership.
And I think that's part of the problem up at the top.
Yes.
Up at the top.
I
That's
agree.
the biggest part of the problem.
Yep, I agree. So you're on your own now. Do you have, and I ask everybody this, when you're first on your own, you're still this rookie cop, maybe even still on probation, maybe even the first couple of years, is there a one call for you early on? I mean, we all have hundreds of calls that fuck with us. Let's make no mistake. But was there one that was early on for you that was like, oh shit, this is real. This is
there, not early on. And there was one call that stands out in my mind because it was kind of the epitome of the type of calls that I was getting at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back to checkout, because in checkout, I had not had a dead body call.
Oh.
And so my checkout coach was like, we're going to get you a dead body call. And I'm like, awesome. Great.
Yes.
At least they don't argue. Okay. We're good.
Right.
So we get our first dead body call. And the next day we get another dead body call. And then the next day we get another dead body call. So I had 3 dead body calls in the 2 weeks of checkout.
Right.
I get out on my own. And at that time, they put you wherever. Oh, well, we need a gap in the 3 district filled. So you're going to be a 3 call today.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we need a gap in the 4 district. You're going to be a 4 car today.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever the gap is, it didn't matter where I got placed. There was going to be a dead body call come out in that district.
Oh, no. You were one of those?
And I got known as Dr. Death.
Yes.
That was my nickname for literally a year.
Oh.
And so I'm on one of the last major ones that I have, and it's summertime. It's 101 degrees. Oh. It's in the 3 district. It's an apartment.
Yep.
It's been there for a couple weeks.
Oh.
And they're calling because there's a smell coming out of this apartment. And I'm like, oh, yummy. And I will never forget going and trying to clear this apartment with another deputy. But it's dildos and fat women porn everywhere. And we get there, and the guy is this rail thin little dude with the glasses that are thick as
the
bottles.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that's when I met my favorite medical examiner ever.
I know who you're talking about.
Yes, you do.
He's retired now. You can say his first name.
Oh, no.
Oh?
No. Female.
Oh.
Blonde hair. Wild and crazy. Very outlandish.
If it's who I think it is, I didn't think she was there at the time. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Are you seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Matt's wife, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Yes, know her very well. Love you. Yes.
I'm there and she shows up and I'm like, oh, thank you. Somebody I know, somebody I enjoy.
She is awesome.
And she looks around and she goes, I feel like guacamole right now.
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes.
This is going to be the greatest call ever.
Yes. She is amazing.
It was it was perfect. And it was like, when I would get a dead body call and she showed up, it was exactly what you needed at that moment. And she was my light through so many of those tough days.
Yeah. Yep.
And I just remember that. I remember that vividly. So out of the chute within the first year, that was the call that literally was like okay, hang on to that moment.
Yeah.
Because this is what it's all about. It's those moments. It's those moments where we can bond together with other agencies, other sectors of this business, and become one and joke around and laugh and relieve the tension.
And that's what that like I've said forever, the whole thin blue line, in my opinion, is redefined. It's not that we protect each other and lie for each other and corruption and blah, 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 blah. It's that family. It's that bond. It's that even outside of law enforcement now, for me, there's such a massive community of people like us who have stepped away from law enforcement for whatever reason. And that line is still there. That blue line is still there. I talk to people on LinkedIn I've never met. They live in Massachusetts. And we talk because we've got such similarities in the things that we've been through. And if the human race would just do that across the board, this world would be so much better. Well,
it's funny that you bring that up because we are getting ready to get into bees. And one of the things that we've learned about bees is that every bee has a job and they stick to that job. But if, say, the nurse bees die off, the drones will step up and do the job of the nurse bees.
Oh, no kidding.
And so if we could just learn to do our jobs well, and if somebody over here needs help, okay, let me relieve my job a little bit and go over here and help.
Right.
And work together in that kind of a sector and harmony.
Yeah. Weird. Work together. Weird. Yeah. There's so much, I mean, in law enforcement, and maybe not across the board, but, and I don't know where it comes from, but there's this culture now of it's every man and every woman for themselves. I've said it before. There are so many spineless turds in this profession that will not stand the line if it's the right thing, and because of politics, it may look bad on you for standing for the right thing. Like, I'm going to do that every day, all day. Obviously, I know you would. I know your husband absolutely will, because I've lived it with him.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that, but it's like it's gone because they're so afraid.
But I think you just said something, though. And that's the important thing is, and I've said this from the beginning of my entire career. Number one, am I sad that I went through that? Am I upset? Of course I'm a little bit upset. I always will be. Like, why did I get dealt those cards? But at the end of the day, you know what? I'm sorry. Fuck anybody who thinks I didn't make it, because I overcame so many freaking obstacles and then some. Proved myself physically, proved myself mentally, proved myself emotionally. So fuck anybody who doesn't think that I didn't overcome those odds, because there are people there who, and along that journey that literally still have a negative thought against me. And that's fine.
Yep.
But at the same time, what you were just saying is, if you are not going to talk up for me when you are in a room alone and facing the Goliath, we're not friends.
That's right.
I'm
out. That's right. I agree. I'm 100% with you. I've always been that. My wife has always laughed. Like, I'd come home and tell her stuff, and she's like, I have worked in an office full of women for decades, and y'all are worse. Like, this is insane.
Yeah, way worse.
In that culture, right?
Way worse.
Nuts. And I've always been that guy. If somebody's talking smack about somebody, I'd be like, well, did you hear that or did you see it? Well, no, Billy told me and John told Billy and Steve told John. And I'm like, shut your mouth.
I'm like, where's the horse? Can we get the answer from the horse?
Horse,
because
exactly.
I don't care about what Billy and Tommy and all those people said.
It's so bad, and it's toxic. It's toxic.
But all of that was exactly why I left that precinct.
Oh.
I had to leave. I had to get out of there.
Oh, okay.
Because I kept finding myself in that same cycle.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And I sat down with the sergeant that I ended up working for. And I said, this is what I'm going to bid for. Are you going to be behind me? Because I knew him outside of the office because my dad and him were friends.
Okay.
And he's like, yep, I am.
Good.
So I sat down and I came clean to him. I said, this is what I've gone through. This is what I've experienced. I am not okay right now. And I need to get out of there. And he said, come on over.
Awesome. And that sergeant backed you and supported you.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And you know, there were times when we disagreed, but we had this, I know it's crazy. We had an adult conversation.
What?
About disagreeing.
Right.
And we found a resolution between the two of us.
Can you say that person's first name?
Andre.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. He and I, but that's why I like him. And that's why I still to this day communicate with him. I still have so much respect for him because if he doesn't like you, he'll tell you to your face.
Oh,
he is not afraid.
Oh, I'm aware.
You know where you sit. You know what you did wrong. You know why he doesn't like you. Whatever the case is, he'll tell you. He has no fear.
Yes.
There's no secrets. And I love that.
But if you're on his crew, you will have to run him over to get to his people. That's the way he was.
Yep.
I've got a story about this guy. I'd been there 10 years. The man would never look me in the eye. We'd pass by each other in the hall because I was a later shift, right? He's day shift. And I'm thinking, and now I was an instructor at this point. So the only conversations we would have would be like during, DT, in service or firearms or what. And it was just instruction. And I'm like, why? Like, I've been here 10 years. Like, this man hates me and I don't know why. I've never worked for him. I was like, what am I doing wrong? And I would tell people and they would laugh, right? Because it's Andre. They would laugh. And then one day, Matt and I were on a call and it turned into a use of force. This guy tried fighting me. And okay, so we're going to do this. So I grapevine him, do the things, whatever. The guy's got some injuries. So I call the OIC and say, hey, got injuries, you need to come out here. And I don't know who it is. And I see Andre pull up and I look at Matt and go, I'm fucked, dude. He goes, what are you talking about? I go, he hates me. Like, I don't know why. And Matt's laughing. He's like, it'll be fine. Like, I've got a good rapport with him. I've known him for years. I'll take care of whatever. And I'm like, okay. So he comes up, the with the hat, the brim pulled. You picture it. He comes stumbling up, and exactly with his mug, his coffee mug in his hand. Yeah, the hat, just like that, Mitch. And he walks up and he literally just mean mugs me. Looks at Matt and kind of brightens up a little bit, and looks at Matt like I'm not even there. And he goes, "Where's he at?" He's in the back of Brian's car. He walks over to the car, and we're standing there. And he opens the door. And he looks at the guy and he's kind of looking at him and he goes, I see a cut above your eye and a fat lip. Anything else wrong with you? The guy's like, no. He goes, you fucked with the wrong two dudes. And close the door on him. And looks at, and I'm like, oh God. And he looks at me and he goes, this is like right when they're starting to test body cams. And he goes, looks at either one. He goes, either one of you fuckers wearing those body cameras? And I go, no, sir. Like, I've been here 10 years. No, sir. Matt goes, no, they haven't given it to us yet. And then he gets this big smile on his face. He goes, this idiot tried fighting both of you guys? Are you kidding? And we were great friends. Like, from that point forward.
But that's that's how it had to be. He's very work oriented. You need to do your job. You need to do it well.
Yep.
And sometimes his box was very thick, like the lines were very thick.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, you knew where you stood with him.
You did.
And I respect that so much. And ironically enough, this is just going a little bit off. Ironically enough, that is exactly what made me fall in love with my husband, because
shocking.
we were getting ready to go out on a date, and I think it was like one of our second or third dates ever. And I'm just having a day. Like, I'm just not feeling me. I'm not feeling good. I come out and I go, do I look like shit? And he's like,
yep.
And he goes, yeah, the pants. And I was like, okay. And I went back in and I changed and I came back out. All right, better? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, cool, let's go. And that, I knew at that moment, I'm like, I am going to marry this man because he's honest. He's honest. I need that. And I know that I have a very intense personality, and I needed somebody who was going to not be fearful of saying, you suck right now. Okay. You're being stupid.
Yeah. And he will.
And we both call each other out. And that's the beauty of our relationship. You know,
the first time I ever met him, I was a reserve. And again, he had taught Evo in my reserve academy. So like I had a rapport with him. Right. But we're all doing, the second briefing at the big bucks at 185 at, Graveyard. And I'm with Michelson, and we're all in this group talking, and I don't even exist. You're like, I am a nithing to him. I don't even exist. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a 20-some-year-old kid. Like, I've done a career in the military. I'm a grown-ass man at this point. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess he just doesn't like me. Like, whatever. And it wasn't, I think maybe by the time I got out on my own, he covered me on a call. There was a big fight happening. And he comes rolling up. He's my first cover, and I'm fighting this dude. And I've got this dude tied up in knots. And I'm finally just laying on this dude, and I've got him all tied up, and I'm holding him. And your husband comes up and with this big grin on his face, because he knows me now, and leans down and looks at me. He goes, "How you doing, Brian?" I'm like, I'm great. I could use some help. He's like, "I think you got this handled. What would you like me to do?" And he's like laughing. I'm like, I've been fighting this dude for 3 minutes, bro. You want to jump in? Like,
Tag.
Yeah, like, you're it. Like, come on. He's just laughing. And the one thing and like you said, the one thing I've always loved about him, some people will say he's a dick, but I appreciate that. It's not that he's a dick. He's just honest.
Yeah.
Like, he would send me messages when I was a coach, be like, "Hey, stop talking on the radio so much. Let your recruit talk." I'm like, yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to control, right? And another, your husband, I'm not going to say his name. I'll let you if you want to. Outstanding man. So much mad respect. I mean, just like taught me so much over the course of my career.
Thank you.
Taught me how to be blunt, taught me how to be honest. And through the last days of that agency was the definition of integrity. The absolute definition of standing the line for me and for Matt and for the other people that were involved in chasing that knucklehead around the county. He's like, these are the guys that I want chasing this motherfucker. These are the guys, as a sergeant, these guys are going to take care of business. So, yeah, kudos to him. And I wish he was there because I'd tell it to his face. But
thank you.
Yes.
We've covered a lot of ground today, and yet we've only just scratched the surface. What Leanne shared in part one is something so many first responders will understand, even if they've never said it out loud. The pressure to keep pushing, the fear of being seen as weak, the sense that if we stop, even for a second, we'll fall apart. And for Leanne, like so many others, that moment eventually came. Behind the strength and service was a human being carrying trauma. And like many of us, she didn't even realize how heavy it had become until the weight nearly broke her. In part two, things get even more real. Leanne takes us into what happened after the uniform came off. The panic attacks, the guilt, the grief, and the silence that followed. We talk about what it feels like to try and explain the unexplainable to people who haven't lived it. and the pain of trying to hold a family together when you're falling apart inside. But it's not just about the struggle, it's about the comeback. Leanne opens up about the turning points that helped her reclaim her identity and find strength in vulnerability. She talks about what support should really look like, what leadership gets wrong, and what healing can actually mean for someone who's spent a career running toward the chaos. It's the kind of conversation that reminds you why we started Shielded Voices. Because stories like Leanne's don't just need to be told, they need to be heard. Part 2 drops in 2 weeks. Until then, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And as always, keep the conversation going.